Good morning, everybody. It's great to be here in Berlin. Today, I'm going to take you on a bit of a whirlwind tour through a lot of our research into advanced uses of digital infrastructure and how to win in the intelligent era. There is a lot of data and slides today we're going to go through quickly, so we will distribute these slides to you, so no need to photograph them as we go through. But the first of really 5 big megatrends I'd like to talk about today is the need to adapt to the digital shift. And by the digital shift, really what we're talking about is the move away from the traditional economy to goods and services that are either enhanced by digital overlays or increasingly now new digital native goods and services. And this is impacting each and every industry at different speeds, but it's happening to every industry. So if you think it's not happening in yours, it is coming and it will catch you unawares if you're not moving forward quickly. And this means that digital transformation is moving out of its traditional role of the back office, making things a bit more efficient within the organization, to becoming the harbinger of customer experience, to actually becoming the business model itself. And a digital business model is agile and flexible and able to change as the markets change rapidly. And a great example of this, for example, is what happened at the start of the pandemic. Uber had established itself by disrupting the ride, hail, and share service. It was a taxi company, effectively. But within a few months, it had transformed to become a fast food delivery company. A very different model, a very different engagement cycle, but really the power of a digital, agile platform. And something we should all really be working towards. And in my research, a lot of what I focus on is what is the difference between what a digital leader does, the top 25% most digitally transformed companies, compared to the middle 50% or the final 30% who view IT as a cost to be cut. And increasingly, those digital leaders say our back-end systems, our digital infrastructure, gives us a competitive advantage. It differentiates us. It enables us to be successful. And the outcome of all of this is successful businesses. We see that the digital leaders invest more in their IT infrastructure. They also are doing it in a different way. They're often bringing in outside partners to build it and run it together with them, and often using cloud-like ways to pay, flexible consumption models where you don't actually have to pay CapEx for your servers or storage or networking. You essentially pay for the capacity you use, and it's provided by the service provider. But these things coming together really do generate business success. We see that those digital leaders are the ones that are growing their revenues because they are agile, but also because they are innovative. The whole ability to launch new digital apps and services allows them to tackle new markets or capture more of existing markets because they provide that better, more engaging digital experience. And this leads us to a number of priorities for what do we have to think about when it comes to our digital backends. And when we look at the overall market, improving security and compliance is often top of the list. That's a no-brainer because without good security and integrity of our data, we cannot have a digital economy. If we look at the market overall, there's a big focus on improving agility and flexibility, and this is key for being able to roll out new digital services. But if we look at what digital leaders think, and these are the companies that rely most on their digital infrastructure, it's very much about enhancing their business resilience, keeping things going, whether it's in the face of a spike in demand, whether it's in the face of a cyber attack, or whether there's a natural disaster that takes systems offline. But keeping systems up and running is absolutely critical in this intelligent era. But I've highlighted particularly in red here as well, because this is a particular problem over time. Improving agility and flexibility, absolutely critical for every business. And we'll be touching on a little bit later, a lot of this is caused by the lack of transformation in how we approach building and running our IT systems. So we really have to think in new ways about building and running IT to be fit for this intelligent era. We have to work towards a modern, highly automated cloud-native IT infrastructure, but also we have to invest more heavily over time. And that means being able to make the business case and show a value out the back end of why that heightened investment in IT is so critical. And this means we're going to be changing how we do things with the help of automation and AI. So the second real mega trend we're talking about today is thinking about the fundamentals of building and running a modern IT infrastructure. The hyperscalers do this day in and day out. They can run entire data centers of many thousands of servers with just one or two administrators. Automation is really not about cutting cost. It does that as a byproduct, but the real value of automation and the automation projects that I've worked with and seen succeed focus on quality, predictability, scalability, resilience, and speed. And out of all of that also comes much better efficiency, whereas all of the automation projects that I've seen start with really just cutting costs have resulted in an IT department that fails over time. It becomes smaller, it becomes less relevant, whereas those that focus on the other attributes, they actually grow in importance within the business. And strategically, it is the critical area to develop. But who is automating? It's really the digital leaders, that top 25%. The middle 50%, the digital mainstream, are on an automation journey. They've started, there's pockets of automation, but it's not joined up end to end. There's very little dynamic workload management or real integration and orchestration. And so we can see a real gap that needs bridging for most organizations to be able to be successful in this new digital economy. So we have to really automate heavily. Every project that you do should have an automation goal in mind. And automation is about people, first and foremost. Everyone has to be comfortable with what the benefits of automation are bringing. It should not be a threat to their roles or their careers. It should be something that they can get more skilled in and deliver more value within a business. It's also critical to work with experienced partners who've done many automation projects and knows what works and what doesn't, so that the outcome can be much more guaranteed and be de-risked as well. So it's absolutely critical to have an automated infrastructure. The third mega trend that we're going to be covering today is really looking at security and resilience, because these are at the foundation of a trusted digital platform. And we're seeing more and more that because we're so reliant on data, that when we don't have access to our data, things really do fall apart, and it can take an entire business offline for weeks or months. And many businesses that experience this fail to return to their former glories. We're seeing a heightened activity in ransomware. There is a lot of data that used to be that there would be extortion to decrypt your data. Now it's exfiltration and selling your data, but also modifying your data in place so that you cannot detect that it has been changed, and therefore it's incorrect, and you have to pay to get the correct data back as well. The problem is when companies are often hit by a ransomware attack, when it comes to going to the backups and trying to recover the business, that recovery often fails. This is an absolutely critical point, that backups have to be reliable when it comes to restore. And a lot of the companies I talk to are not doing a fire drill rehearsal at least once a year where they try to recover a minimum viable business from scratch with no other systems. And it's particularly difficult. I've talked to finance, and finance go, well, we can't do this. We've got too many external partners who feed us data. We can't actually do a from-scratch practice. So they don't even know if they have a failure, if they can come back up again. And then we've, of course, got to think about, well, where does our data actually live? The public cloud has grown in popularity and importance over the last number of years, but it's far from being the only solution. But our data has to live in our on-premises environments, into co-location, into the public cloud, for example. And talking of public cloud, it's very popular. Most companies I talk to use it, but very few companies I speak to are closing their data centers and moving to the public cloud. In fact, only around 10% companies in total are public cloud first. Around a third are quite balanced. If they will look at the application or the services needs, they'll look at what the business needs and then make a decision. But over half of companies that I talk to regularly are either on-premises only or prefer to deploy apps and services to their on-premises environment first and foremost. So we have to improve this on-premises environment to be much more like the public cloud so that it's relevant, agile, and scalable and secure going forwards. And this is a big challenge given this lack of automation integration going forwards. But the keys here is we need to protect our data wherever it's located across the hybrid cloud from natural or cyber threats but most companies are woefully underprepared for this. And massive recommendation here, make sure at least once a year, if not more frequently, you're test driving a full disaster recovery plan to ensure that should the worst happen, you can get up and running reliably. The fourth major point that we're going to cover today is AI-ready infrastructure. You've already heard it touched on a lot. It has very critically become top of the C-suite's interest levels. We're seeing massive amounts of investment. If any of you have followed NVIDIA's trajectory over the last year, its revenue has essentially kept on doubling and doubling and doubling. It is now a huge business since ChatGPT really broke the Gen AI news in late 2022. The AI investment is real. It's having a massive impact on infrastructure. We're seeing it impact the types of data that we're using. So we have traditionally business information has been very dense and very valuable. It's been very information-centric, but we're now moving to media. We're moving to language and speech and video and media and sound, and all of these have huge data content, but very little information content from a business perspective. But all of this is useful when it feeds into AI and delivers other types of value to the business. So as we move off of our structured databases and into AI-driven systems, our demands on storage are going to go through the roof. We're going to have huge amounts of need for multi-hundred gigabit or even terabit per second networking. We're going to have millions of IOPS, very low latency, very high reliability. But we're also going to have to store huge amounts of capacity as well. So we're going to have to balance these competing elements across our storage infrastructure. And we're going to have more data retained for longer. We're going to generate more data. And we are going to have to make sure it's available to the AI models over time. This means we're changing the types of systems we're deploying. So we're moving away from very structured systems towards unstructured, scalable data storage. That's particularly suited for very distributed IoT-type environments around disaggregated infrastructure, and really where IT and intelligence is everywhere, where we're gathering information from sensors, people, systems, and then using AI to help us make sense and recommendations and generate additional value. And to really get to grips with an AI-ready infrastructure, you need AI in the infrastructure. These systems are getting really a lot more complex than they have been in the past. They're also changing faster than any of us could have imagined 5 years ago. So to get to grips with it, we really need systems that help our automation. So we need intelligent automation and optimization to really make this achievable. We need analytics and decision support to change how we deploy and use our storage, and we need automated execution, keeping people out the loop as much as we can, while still allowing reviews, highlight exceptions, and make sure that the storage team or the infrastructure team can really review how the automation is performing over time. And bring in, wherever you can as well, infrastructure that's already been built. So can you make use of any cloud-type analytics or others to avoid having to stand up your own and fund it internally as well? But again, in this new age, Gen AI is going to put unheard of demands on your infrastructure. And to cope with this, we really do need AI ops to deliver at the speed that business needs. And our final megatrend today, really, and one that impacts all of us and our children, is thinking about the planet and the environment and having as low an impact on it over time as we possibly can. In Ireland alone, data center consumption has really rocketed. We've seen it almost triple as a share of power consumption within the island, from about 5% in 2015, and by 2021 it was 14%. And in fact, in Dublin, there's now a moratorium on new data center builds because of the power consumption of data centers. There's just not enough energy to supply that, together with the other industrial or commercial and residential demands as well. Sustainability is also top of mind, very much so for the digital leaders. These are the companies that are most automated and have huge observability into what their applications are doing and how much power and emissions they're producing. But over time, we've seen it move into the mainstream. And increasingly also, even in the digital followers, we're seeing ESG and efficiency become a top of mind priority over time. But efficiency is not a sunk cost. It's not a waste of investment. If you treat it right and use it to transform your systems and bring in observability and automation, it is really there to enable a lot more innovation and agility and improve profitability and revenue growth. So treat any sustainability journey you're on as a transformation opportunity, because any transformed IT is orders of magnitude more efficient than the type of data centers I typically see, which are running infrastructure that is 5 years or more old. And companies have no idea what its performance is like and what its power consumption is like, because it's not observable. This often means we're running a lot of server workloads at double the power consumption that it could be running on a modern machine. And we often run 100% of our servers at 5 to 10% utilization, rather than our most modern 20% at 80+ utilization. So that's the goal we have to move towards. We really have to start thinking holistically about how we build and run and operate our IT infrastructure, starting from the center with modern and efficient hardware. We need automation to make sure that only the most modern and efficient hardware is used wherever possible. We need to change our data centers with liquid cooling and very high power delivery for the modern AI systems that are running 65 kilowatt or more per rack. And we also have to think about the power supplies, particularly the decarbonized power supplies that are going to be absolutely critical to cutting down the carbon emissions. So moving more to nuclear, wind, solar, etc., rather than relying on coal, oil, and gas. So our infrastructure is often used way beyond its intended lifespan. Efficiency improvements are driven by better automation, and we have to prepare for a new generation of infrastructure that is not your grandfather's data center. So with that, I'd really like to thank you for your attention today, and I'll hand back to Sebastian. Thank you so much.